Hello and welcome to Insurance Digital Marketing, how to stand out and attract the modern insurance consumer. My name is Ryan Hanley. I am the head of marketing at trustedchoice.com and the managing editor of Agency Nation. And today I wanted to give you kind of a screen share presentation, like a little sample of a new live presentation that I've been doing for insurance organizations, state associations, insurance groups all over the country. This is basically the first 25 to 30 minutes of the presentation, and it outlines some of the core concepts that I think are impacting our industry and why we need to adopt digital marketing into our everyday routine as independent insurance agents. And I just thought by sharing kind of the first 30 minutes, it would give you a good kind of hands-on feel for what you'd actually get if I was in front of you or your audience or your agency. Agency Nation and trustedchoice.com are dedicated to educating independent insurance agents and just helping support them in any way that they can. And doing kind of these live in-person presentations is a great way to kind of connect and answer questions and really get down to the nitty-gritty of why we're here and why digital marketing is an important part of what we do. As you can see, I'm at my home. So if my dog barks in the background during this presentation, I'm just going to roll on, and I hope that you're cool with that. But I wanted to get this out, so we're going to roll on. Now, when I say content marketing, digital marketing, a question that we have to ask ourselves, like a barometer, is: are we thinking this or are we thinking this, right? And the reason that I share these two slides is because, I think for a lot of us, for a lot of agents, we were successful, maybe not in the time of this typewriter, this is probably ancient, but the technology that we used to grow our agencies isn't necessarily the technology that our consumers are using today. And that's really the main point that I want to make here. We're a little tongue-in-cheek, but the point is that, not that I expect every agency group, every agent to be, right on the bleeding edge of technology and kind of adopting things. But just we need to have an understanding that our consumers have, as an industry, moved past what the standard practices are for what we do. They are starting to adopt mobile phone usage as a primary internet communication tool. So when they're sitting at home, instead of pulling up their laptop, they're staying right on their mobile phones. And our ability to communicate with them using the technology that they use is very, very important. So as I've said many times, I was an independent insurance agent for 8 years, actually for a family agency, as you can see right here, the Murray Group in upstate New York. My wife's family owns the agency, so my father-in-law was the principal. My brother-in-law, my wife, and my wife's twin sister actually still all work at the agency. And I was very much a boots-on-the-ground producer. At 25 years old, I was out driving around town trying to bump into as many people as I could, walk into businesses. I was calling my family, calling my friends, trying to get anyone that would listen to me to hear my pitch and potentially become a new client. What I learned very early on was that I was losing on commercial accounts and even personal lines accounts quite often because I just didn't have the experience. I mean, think about your own buying process. If you're sitting down with someone and you're talking to a 25-year-old kid with 3 months experience versus an insurance, someone maybe an agency owner or an agent who's been in the business for 30 years. Who are you going to choose? I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're going to choose the person with more experience. They've seen all the issues that could potentially impact you and your family or your business, and that's what was happening to me. It was very obvious that I didn't have whatever it was that was necessary to sever these 15, 20, 30-year relationships. And it's those relationships that make the independent insurance agency system so strong, right? So there's a reason that they were tough to break. It's because when a consumer, when an insurance buyer, when an insurance consumer has been with an independent agent for 10, 15, 20 years, they're bought in, they're sold, they get the value, they've built a relationship, and they're not going anywhere. However, I also realized very, very quickly that online, I could separate myself. And what I mean by that is where in person it was very obvious that though I studied and was knowledgeable as much as you could be, in the first 6, 12, 18 months of your career, I was still a rookie in selling. However, online, where I could create content, tell stories about what was going on, explain coverages, where I could find people where they were communicating in communities such as LinkedIn and on Facebook, I could separate myself and establish my expertise in those spaces and make myself available to those consumers. And by doing that, I started to gain traction very quickly. We had a Monday morning meeting where we would explain where our business came from, and more, my business started to come from the internet, and I just fell in love with the ability to educate and really be a valuable resource. Not on my terms, but on my clients' terms. When they were at home at 9 p.m. and they'd put the kids to bed and they had a question, they could log on and they knew if they came to my website, they could get the answers that they needed to their insurance questions. And Google felt the same way and sent a lot of people there. So that's why I'm so bought into the internet. It's not just that I took a class, it's that I've actually been banging my head off the wall for 6 years doing this stuff. So I want you to buy into what we're doing and understand that there is a grassroots way. There is a way that on a budget, without hiring a full-time employee, to do social media, to do digital marketing, that you can be very successful. So when I realized that insurance sales wasn't really for me, but I still loved our industry and I loved marketing, and I combined those two disciplines to join trustedchoice.com. And you can see my partner in crime here, Marty Agather. And we work every single day to do exactly what you're getting here, to educate, to inform, to help, to guide, and ultimately for those agents who want online referrals, they join trustedchoice.com, an advantage subscription, and we send thousands upon thousands of referrals every single month, and driving those referrals is exactly what I do. So let's talk about what pisses me off. It pisses me off big time. It aggravates me, is probably a better term, that State Farm is able to run a commercial that depicts us in this way, right? Pale, stale, and mail, checked out, independent insurance agent with a fishing pole, doesn't really get it. The commercial actually shows that State Farm saved their client $200 or something like that, and the independent insurance only saved them $1. And as much as it's kind of a funny scenario, it's a depiction that State Farm is able to run, over and over and over again, because this is the perception that the average insurance buyer has about our industry and who we are. And that's a reality. Some people may push back. It doesn't necessarily make me feel good to say that. It shouldn't make you feel good to hear that. But State Farm would not be able, the truth is, State Farm would not be able to run this commercial for as long and as often as they have if this wasn't a perception that the people who were watching this commercial were making. They knew immediately who this person was. It was the other guy, the independent insurance agent, the not hip, the not the insurance provider that doesn't think about the client. I mean, that's what they're perceiving with this, and the audience is soaking it in. And this is what we're fighting against. It aggravates me that they can show this depiction and then it actually resonates with their audience. So that's a big part of, and not that this is a commercial for trustedchoice.com, but to be able to, on a national scale, try to defend our industry against this perception is a big part of why I'm here and why I'm talking to you today. So here's another reason, Google Compare, right? Google has come into the market. They had originally come into the UK. They're now in California. Slowly but surely, they'll be making their way across the country. And pretty soon, in search results in your geographic region, Google Compare, their comparison platform for today auto insurance, most likely more products in the future, is going to be showing up. And whether you want to do the ostrich style and just stick your head in the sand, or you see this coming and you're willing to take it on, is up to you. Either way, this is going to impact our business, and it already is starting to impact our business, because even people who do not necessarily jump over to this type of insurance right away, it's on their mind, they see it, And it's starting to sink into their perception. And what it is as long as everything's going good with our clients, we probably don't have to worry about them leaving to Google Compare, but understand that where before they may have given us the benefit of the doubt, today, with more and more options like Google Compare, those clients who before would have just kind of given us the benefit of the doubt, today are going to be shopping around and using tools like Google Compare. So we need to be prepared for that. I don't think that it's going to destroy our business or destroy our market share. I actually think that in some ways we can leverage Google Compare to help grow our business, but we just need to be aware of it and be adaptable and adjust and see it for what it is. The last thing is that we are fighting against GEICO, Progressive, Allstate, State Farm. I mean, GEICO spends over $1 billion in advertising, and we can't stop that from happening. As an industry, all independent insurance agents, carriers, brokers, agents put together, we only spend $400 million. So when you think about that, we are spending 40% of what GEICO spends if every single one of us was on the same exact page. So it's very, very difficult to compete against that. I don't necessarily think that we have to compete against them in dollars. We don't. But what we do have to do is have some sort of consistency in messaging and branding and just how we present ourselves. I mean, understand that every single independent insurance agent in this country impacts the way insurance consumers view every single other independent insurance agent in this country. That is a very, very powerful point when you think about it. Okay? What you do, what your neighbor does down the street, what the guy across town, with the guy in 5 counties over, with the woman downstate, how they operate their businesses impacts the way insurance consumers, the general public, views your agency. That is 100% reality. Insurance consumers do not delineate between this independent insurance agency and that. We are independent insurance agencies. GEICO is GEICO, State Farm is State Farm. That's the way the insurance consumer views our marketplace. When we start to embrace that and start to support each other from the standpoint of giving a common set of values, what the Trusted Choice brand is all about. There's a reason why that initiative has been pushed so hard. It hasn't been adopted as much as we would like, but the concept is there, and it's rooted in the fact that we all impact each other. So when we band together, because of our local footprint, because of our relationship building techniques, we don't need $1 billion. GEICO needs $1 billion because they struggle to build relationships, and the people who buy from them have very shallow relationships. We know that. We have very deep, strong relationships. So GEICO has to spend $1 billion, but we need to do a better job of being consistent to help grow as an industry. And a lot of people blame the tools. I mentioned this kind of before. A lot of people want to blame the concept of, or our lack of tools, our lack of having mobile responsive websites and being able to communicate through devices such as text, and the fact that only 19% of independent insurance agents have adopted e-signature, which is an absolute no-brainer product, but so many have not done it. They want to blame tools, and I don't think it's tools. I mean, we do, as an industry, again, looking over the wide scope, we do struggle to adopt technology quickly. We tend to fight it till it's no longer, we can't perform our business until we adopt, with a few exceptions. But I don't actually think that that's what holds us back. I actually think that it's this smaller mindset. It's this, my agency only impacts the footprint or the small geographic region in which we operate. And I'm going to ask you to have a broader scope, not just, and no one needs to be philanthropic or altruistic. This isn't, give unto everyone else. A good friend of mine, Jason Cass, likes to say, rising tides lifts all ships. And though I firmly believe that, the things that we're going to talk about here and the reasons why having a digital communication strategy, having a process for communicating and building relationships online is so important, is that by doing it for ourselves, we do lift everyone. So for doing it, for having that communication method, for thinking forward, for thinking about the consumer first and how they want to communicate, we do rise the whole industry. But intrinsically, we're just working on ourselves. So Why are we talking about digital marketing? Why is this so important? Why would I dedicate the time to create this video for you? Why do so many people preach the power of digital marketing? It is because of something called the zero moment of truth. The zero moment of truth is a study that was done by Google back in 2011. Google wanted to study what is the insurance buyer? What are these people that are going online, not the insurance buyer, the internet buyer? What are these people that are going online and buying products, buying services? What is it about them? Why do they go online? And what they ultimately found was, for someone who I like to call the connected generation consumer, these online shoppers, they make 60% of the buying decision before they ever reach out to a provider. 60% of the buying decision is made before they ever reach out to a provider. That means that if they choose whether to do business with you or not before they ever contact you. And, just kind of to clarify that, when they choose not to work with you, they don't call. So if the phone's not ringing, that means that what you are doing is not providing a solid enough case to the online consumer that they feel like they should purchase from you. Because if they're not just going to call you to get a quote, they're going to feel like you are the right person for them before they call you about their insurance product. So let's think about that for a second. So what I'm saying is, if I'm shopping for insurance and I'm in Albany, New York, which is where I live, and there's, say, 20 providers in the area, right? I'm certainly not going to call 20. Say I'm going to call 3 maybe. Out of those 20, what I'm going to do is Google search. Who shows up in search, right? Best auto insurance in Albany. So I find 10 listings. And I start at the top and I start clicking through it. And the first agency has a cluttered site, or maybe it looks like just one page, or it hasn't been updated in a long time, or the graphics don't really make sense. I may or may not be turned off by that. It may not bother me. It may. But what's going to happen is I'm immediately going to make a decision based on that website and my own beliefs, values, and standards. And I'm either going to say this is an option, or I'm going to move on. And I'm going to go down that list until I have whatever I feel like is enough people to call, 1, 2, 3, and I'm either going to fill out a contact form, send them an email, or pick up the phone. But what's happening is I'm making my decision as to whether or not an insurance provider is worth doing business with before I call. I'm not just calling. And this goes for referrals too. This is the other piece of it. So say that I go to a bowling league and I have all my buddies there, and I mention to one of them that I need new auto insurance, that I just feel like I've been with the same carrier for a really long time, and my agent doesn't requote me, and I just feel like I'm paying too much, and I'm looking for a new provider. Very, very common, right? One of my bowling buddies says, you should call the Smith Jones agency. Okay, so I go online and I research the Smith Jones agency before I call them. Now, this wasn't the case 20 years ago. 20 years ago, if my buddy said call the Smith Jones agency, what's their phone number? I'm going to call them right now and set an appointment for tomorrow. That is not the way business is being done today, at least not as often as it was. And this connected generation consumer is the reason for that. And it's because of the zero moment of truth, this moment where the insurance buyer is deciding whether or not they're going to do business with you before they ever pick up the phone. And if they decide that they are not willing to do business with you based on what they're finding online, they're not calling. Very, very powerful. This is why we must have a digital presence, because these people are making the buying decision before they ever see you. It's why video works so well. It's why pictures of people and your staff work so well. It's why the number one optimization tip for a trustedchoice.com Advantage profile is putting a profile picture or a headshot of someone in your agency on your profile picture. Because when insurance consumers come to trustedchoice.com and they see a human being, they are much more likely to click on that search result than if they see just a logo or a picture of a building. So very, very powerful stuff. All right. And so now let's say we decide, okay, I get it, Ryan. You've banged me in the head with this enough. I get it. I've already started digital marketing, but it doesn't seem to be working, right? I hear that all the time. And I feel like a big part of it is because we've been missold on how to do digital marketing. How do we engage in this process? It seems so daunting, right? Well, the common kind of way that it's sold, and this is another thing that kind of aggravates me sometimes, because insurance agents are insurance agents, right? They're not marketers. If they were marketers, they'd be doing marketing. They're insurance agents. They're good at diagnosing issues, building relationships, helping people solve their different needs, and placing the proper coverages and negotiating with carriers. This is what insurance agents are good at. Yet they're sold on marketing that all you need to do is broadcast as loudly as you possibly can, that on social media, on Facebook, there's just this community of people who are dying to hear everything that you have to say, and then you kick back and the money just rolls in. Facebook just delivers money into your bank account and it's all good, and this is digital marketing. And the truth is, what you get is crickets. And then you say, well, digital marketing doesn't work, I'm going back to cold calling. Now, I'm not against cold calling. I think that strategic cold calling has value. I think just blasting a list is silly, at least in today's day and age, but that's a personal opinion. I feel like, so the fact that digital marketing has been missold here is bothersome to me, because to get the audience takes time. This can happen. You can have a captive audience waiting to hear what you have to say, even as an insurance agent. There are plenty of things that you can talk about, and we're going to talk about many of those things in a second. But this only happens through time. This takes a lot of time. At the beginning, you have to expect crickets and understand that you are building towards an audience. All right. So the connected generation. What is the connected generation? The connected generation is exactly what you see on the screen right now. Good-looking, 20-something-year-olds, all on their phones, even though they're standing right next to each other. And that's very much what the connected generation is. The connected generation is also these little guys, right? Watching YouTube videos and playing different games on their cell phones. And ads are probably being injected in there, very much the connected generation, and very much who advertisers go after. But the connected generation is also this couple. And because the connected generation is agnostic of age. What I mean by that is it doesn't matter if you are 5, 15, 25, 55, or 85. If you communicate, build relationships, and make buying decisions online, you are part of the connected generation. Perfect example is my father-in-law. My father-in-law is in his early 60s. 2 years ago, he had a flip phone that was beaten up, something he'd had for 10 years, and he was not part of the connected generation. He was not big into email or the internet, and he kind of went about his business in the very traditional way. You would ask a friend, or we would look it up in the newspaper, or all the other ways that you find information as an unconnected generation consumer. However, his Verizon New Every 2 came up, and actually, I can't remember if it was my wife or her sister, but one of them convinced him to get the new iPhone. So he got a new iPhone, and they taught him how to use it. And now, when he takes trips to Florida, he's on TripAdvisor looking up new restaurants that he's never been to, and he's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that these restaurants existed. And he's had a house in Florida for 7 years. So he's now part of the connected generation. He's reading TripAdvisor reviews, figuring out which restaurants he wants to go to that he didn't even know existed in the town that he's had a house in for 7 years. Connected generation. It's growing every single day. It is agnostic of age, and the 3 requirements are only that you communicate, build relationships, and make buying decisions online. All right. So, and it all really starts with Google. It all really starts with Google. This is where we go when we have problems. If this was the full-blown out presentation, we would come back to this many times and talk about how you get your agency to show up in this little box when someone searches for auto insurance or just insurance terms, whatever they may be, in your geographic area. We're not going to talk about that today because this is the pared down version. But remember, all things start with this little box. There may be people who would push back on that, but I'll tell you from my own experience in our industry, when it comes to making real return on investment in the least amount of time, if you optimize your website and your digital marketing activities to make sure that Google knows that you're a value provider, that is the best way to go. All right. So if we were in a real audience, if this was an audience and I was walking among you right now, and I asked you, what is the number one thing that sets your agency apart from every other agency that someone could potentially do business with, what would you say? You would say good service. I know this because I've actually given some variation of this presentation about 50 times, and every time I ask this question, the entire room raises their hand, good service. Most of the time, 3 or 4 people will raise their hand with good service, and I look around and I go, just raise your hand, I know you all want to, and they all do. Because we all think that we provide great service, and most likely, everyone who's watching this does provide great service. Here's the deal. Before the internet, before technology improved logistics to where it is today, customers only expected 2 sides of this triangle. You either provided good service or a good product and fast delivery, but you were very expensive, right? So fast delivery, great product, but you were expensive. If you were competitively priced, if you had a good price and your delivery was incredibly fast, customers assumed that your product would be of lower quality because just logistically, it was very difficult to provide a high quality product at a very competitive price and make it easy to buy and fast to buy. Incredibly, incredibly difficult to do, and customers did not expect it. If you did provide this, then you set your business apart and you became the market leader. Today, based on technology and, as I said, improved logistics, companies like Amazon, Zappos, Apple, customers now know that it is absolutely within the realm of possibilities for a product or service provider to be able to give a good product or great service, provide it very easy and fast at the most competitive rate in the market, or a competitive rate based on the market. So they expect all 3 sides of the triangle, which means that good service no longer sets us apart. The fact that you give good service is the barrier for entry. That's the bar. If you didn't provide good service, you wouldn't have a business. Okay, so good service does not separate you. You cannot say as a value proposition to a client, we give great service, because everybody who hears it thinks that it's BS. And the reason they think it's BS is not because they don't think that you actually give good service, it's because they don't care. You wouldn't be in their house. They wouldn't be sitting in your office. They wouldn't be talking to you on the phone if you didn't provide good service. Okay, so though we can put as a benefit good service on our website, please do not assume that good service in any way is a benefit to your clients, because they assume that you have good service. Okay, so what does separate us? Well, it's the circled word that you see on the right-hand side of the screen, experience. It's the human side of your business. It's what makes your business unique. Right? I was in New Mexico a couple weeks ago speaking to the Big Eye of New Mexico, and I had one of the agents come up and explain to me that his clients actually hang out in his foyer a little bit. That they'll come and transact whatever business they have. He said he still has a lot of cash business, but that his clients will actually hang out, have a cup of coffee. Some more clients will come in, they'll communicate, and that he may have 5 to 7 people in his foyer kind of having conversations and communicating and just almost, not that it's a hangout, but that clients are very comfortable in his office just kind of having these little interactions. And that it's not a meeting place per se, but it's a place that people are comfortable kind of interacting, and that's one of the things that separates his business. And that is an experience, and that's something you can base a digital marketing campaign around, right? That the willingness and how comfortable and nice a setting he creates for his clients to be able to have those interactions with each other, not just him and his staff, is an experience that separates his business and has nothing to do with service, has nothing to do with insurance, and has nothing to do with the cost of the products that he's providing. So that's what I mean by the experience that you provide. Okay, so we're going to take that experience and we're going to create stories around it. So I would go into deeper detail if we were doing the full presentation, but the point of this slide is to tell you that digital marketing is really just kind of telling stories, and we're going to talk about what that means. But when you do tell stories in the digital space, what you're really doing is putting your clients into the space that you are in. So I'll drill onto that real quick. There's been much research, and that's what this slide is describing, that shows when someone tells a story that the audience connects with, their brain actually releases the same chemicals as the person who is telling the story. So if the person who is telling the story is talking about what it was like to, after being a one-woman show for 20 years, what it was like to hire her first employee to be able to serve a broader market and be more responsive, and how much pride she felt in doing that. The customers who are hearing that are going through the same emotions, and the same chemicals are releasing in their brain. That pride that this insurance agent felt is the same pride that the clients are feeling to a slightly lesser extent. And what it does is it starts to build that connection. So the experience that I was talking about before with the agent in New Mexico, if he starts to tell stories, and I gave him this advice when I was there, if he starts to tell stories about the interaction and the community that's building in kind of the waiting room of his office, people who connect and relate to that will want to be part of that. So that's why storytelling is so important. But when I say storytelling, I don't want you to think that I'm talking about Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or something like that. We're not talking about fiction. We're talking about, in a business context, what the story of your business is. So when we're creating content in the digital space, it should fall in one of these 3 buckets that you currently see on the screen: company, client, and community. And where those 3 buckets interact is your story. So I'm going to break down quickly what a piece of content may look like that falls into each bucket. So for company, so this is, why does your receptionist, the person who answers your phones, the first people that people see, why has she been working for you for 30 years? Why has one of your producers gave up his second job to just focus on insurance because you provided a place that was so productive, so positive, that he would actually not work a second job or give up a hobby to be in that place? Why do you have pictures of your family just posted wall to wall on your office? Why have you filled up every last inch with pictures of your family? Why do you show up every day? Right? These are the things that tell the story of your company, right? What is this place? The why. What is the why of your business? That's company. Okay? Pieces of content may be just a picture of you in front of your wall of family photos, or the big smile that you get when you walk in the door from whoever is the first person that you see. These are great pieces of content that tell the story about your company. Clients. What does the person look like who decides to work with you? Is it single moms? Right? Do you connect really well with helping them understand how to perpetuate their family and take care of their children? Do you help urban people? Are you really good at urban risks or commercial risks or family businesses, right? Who is the type of client that chooses your organization? What do they look like? Why do they choose you? Simple things like going to their business and maybe doing a little expose, maybe getting a quote from them on why they chose you, taking a bro shot photo where it's just the 2 of you with your arms around each other. Anything like that tells the story of your client and adds to the overall value of what you're providing. And then the 3rd bucket is community. What is the place that you operate in? Is there a parade that you sponsor every year? Is your name in the Little League? Or do Little Leaguers have your name, your agency's name on the back of their T-shirt? There are a million stories that you can tell in your community, but where you invest, where you dive in, where you become part of that community, images, stories, blog posts, videos, testimonials, any of that stuff is really great content. And where all that comes together is the story of your business. Notice I didn't talk about insurance, right? Insurance is not the story of your business. You are a business that sells insurance, not an insurance business. The reason that I say that is because no one connects on a deep level with an insurance business. They connect with people who just happen to sell insurance. And every one of your clients is a client of yours because of that reason. Because of you, because of whoever it is inside your agency that they built a relationship with. That's why they currently do business with you. So just think about that. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't talk about insurance on your website. It just means that the story of your business, this one type of content, is very much about the human side. And that's kind of, we're getting right at the end here, but that's such an important part. That's what I hope you take from this, is that so much of digital marketing is telling the human side of your business. It's connecting with connected generation consumers, the people who are connecting online building that connection, building that relationship, having them want to choose your agency before they ever contact you, whether they referred or not. Very, very important. The human side of your business is an incredible piece. And when we dive into that, the insurance part just comes along with it, right? It just makes sense that we interject little pieces of the insurance part of our business into the human side of our story. And that's where we really start to build deep, lasting relationships. Remember, these relationships start online. It doesn't mean they always live online. It doesn't mean they can't come offline. But so many of the connected generation consumers are starting the relationship online, and that's where we need to get better as an industry. And I hope that you'll do that. So it all comes down to this is actually a quote from the book that I just released, Content Warfare, How to Find Your Audience, Tell Your Story, and Win the Battle for Attention Online. Attention without trust has no value, okay? That's why we need to tell the human side of our story, okay? We can run ads, and there's a million different tactics and tricks and tips that I'm happy to show you that will teach you how to get attention. But if the human side of your story isn't there, if there's no human piece, if there's no piece building trust, then that attention has no value. So just remember, as much as the insurance part of marketing is so important, and it's easy to get our insurance content out in front of people with digital marketing, there also has to be this human side of our story, because that's what connects, or that's what gets the connected generation in that zero moment of truth to choose our agency, to choose your agency. Right? The last thing I'm going to do is tell you a very quick story about insuremyfoodtruck.com. Okay, we're going to wrap this whole thing up. Insuremyfoodtruck.com is an independent insurance agency in a very traditional sort outside of San Francisco called Bay Risk Insurance Solutions. One of their principals is a guy by the name of Denny Christner, and Denny fell in love with food trucks. He just likes food, kind of gourmet food, and on the West Coast, food trucks are gourmet, and he started going there, and he really enjoyed them. And he ultimately had the opportunity to quote the business of one of these food trucks, and found out that they're tough business to write. Makes sense. Inferno on wheels. You got the grease oven, grease pit right inside the food truck, and also it's mobile, and just tough risk. Not a lot of people wanted to write them. And he ultimately found two carriers in the state of California that were willing to write these food trucks. And he asked both underwriters if there were any agents who kind of owned this market, and both of them said no. So Denny kind of went about his business, bumped into more food trucks, and started writing a few more. But he realized why writing them was so tough wasn't because of the actual risk itself. It was getting in contact with these men and women. They're just tough to get in contact with. They're in the back of trucks all day. They're flipping burgers or making tacos or burritos or whatever type of food that food truck made, barbecue. And they didn't want to take any phone calls because they're working. When they weren't serving food, they were prepping food, and they weren't prepping food, they were cleaning up from the meal before, or doing, taking the take from the till, whatever they had made that day, doing the accounting, all the other things that go around with running a business. And they didn't want to take phone calls, and they didn't really check email or weren't really responsive, and text message, I guess, didn't really work that well. And it was frustrating. It was frustrating to Denny. Just like it had probably been for the many other insurance agents that had thought about writing food trucks but struggled to get in touch with them. And then Denny realized something. He realized that food truck operators communicate on Twitter, because this is how they connect with their audience. So yeah, they're not taking phone calls or sending emails, but they're tweeting out the location of their food truck and the types of food they're making. Some of them took requests, all different. This is how food truck operators communicate with their audiences, via Twitter. So Denny took to Twitter. He created a Twitter handle to mirror this brand that he was building, insuremyfoodtruck.com, and he took to Twitter, and he became the insurance agent that food truck operators trusted, because he went to the space where they communicated. He took to Twitter and started building relationships. Is it comfortable to build relationships on Twitter? Probably not so. This is the only case study I've ever found where it made sense for someone to go onto Twitter. But the point isn't Twitter. The point is that Denny took his communication to the platform where his customers were most comfortable. And then he told the story of why he went after it, of why he was interested in food trucks, how he related to them. He started providing valuable content to them around running their business and running a safe operation. And quickly, food truck operators, because he spoke their language in the place that they were and was providing value, they started to trust him, and the attention that they gave him was turning into business. I'm very happy to say that Denny is one of the most, or the largest retail agent writing food trucks across the country. He's an incredible guy, and his story is amazing. I think it is a testimonial to what the power that independent insurance agents have when they really dial into this stuff. And he owns the product and he owns the brand and does an incredible job with it. And it's a case study. It shows us that this is possible, right? When we really believe this stuff, when we dive into it, it really is possible. I wouldn't want to go head-to-head with Denny on a food truck, but there are plenty of other niches out there where we can use these digital marketing tools to tell both the insurance side and the human side of our story and dominate our market. And if we do that, we wear colorful capes and masks and we jump into the air. I kind of have a thing with stock photography. I think it's ridiculous and awesome at the same time. And I just want to say thank you, everyone. I encourage you to check out trustedchoice.com. We are capturing more online referrals every single day and delivering them to independent insurance agents across the country. It is cheap as heck for what you get, and it's growing every single day. And I take personal responsibility for that. That is actually my primary function, is finding new online referrals and delivering them to agents. So if you have questions about it, feel free to reach out to me, ryan.hanley@trustedchoice.com, or just leave a comment below. Obviously, you're watching this on Agency Nation or YouTube, but if you're on Agency Nation, check it out, subscribe, lots of great stuff. You can go to agencynation.com/advantage to learn more about an advantage subscription from trustedchoice.com. This is me. Thank you. Appreciate your time. And if you're interested in seeing this presentation live, just reach out to me and let me know. And we can see if there's opportunity to have me come in and give this presentation to you and your organization live. With that, we will get out of here. Thank you, everyone, very much.